Simpsons Index, an online spreadsheet that is also a podcast. This is the podcast.
Coming to you from SideQuest Studios, this is the Simpsons Index, episode 287. Hello out there, I'm your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill, joined here as always, except when he's not, by BT Calloway.
Ahoy, hoy.
And joining us all the way from beautiful, yet very hot Adelaide, is Sean Flierl.
I'm dying. It's for your entertainment.
Like, sometimes beauty is hot. What do you want?
Well, that's it. And let's hope that this isn't the only exhausting thing that you'll experience today. Oh, wait, no, it won't be, because we're reviewing New Simpsons.
Yay!
And just before we hook into the episode review, Sean, returning champion, have you been keeping up with the show at all since we last met on the Index?
No, you are literally my only kind of exposure to the new Simpsons or anything post-classic era. Like, that's... exposure therapy is through the Simpsons Index for me.
You would be amazed at how many people tell us that.
I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I think we've had like one different answer, and it's... Or the different answer is like, oh yeah, I still rewatch the classic episodes, but nah, not this stuff.
I will only go back and, like, because now that we're in a... You know, I found that's really interesting about the way that we consume television and media is that now that we're in a streaming society and not in a, like, what we would know as normal TV in Australia or cable or things like that, we're not just exposed to TV shows that we didn't decide to put on ourselves. So I'm not even there to be caught off by classic Simpsons. Oh, it's there. Okay, I'll sit down and watch it for 20 minutes.
You're not sitting down to dinner, channel surfing. Oh, Simpsons, I may as well check it out.
Yeah, which I would do, because of course I would, but I would never think to put it on.
Yeah, that's it. When you've got the choice in your hand, you're feeling like you're making the commitment, whereas when it's on free-to-air...
You got to watch what's there, you know?
Exactly. And somewhat recently, I actually got kicked into a Seinfeld revisit because it was just on. And now it's been like,
I was just kind of wondering that even maybe streaming services need to set this up where I can start 3 programs at the same time and just flip between them and see which one I kind of want to land on.
Well, it is kind of a thing where we go... Maybe now we need to, like, just go full circle and streaming will eventually become... Because some channels on, like, Netflix, for example, when WWE was on Binge, they still had their live... like channel, which is whatever they put on. I was like, you've just put normal TV onto streaming TV. We've just gone full circle.
Yep, we really have. And like when one of the original streaming promises is we'll drop the entire season at once and you've got to binge watch it new. And now like I feel like, well, me personally anyway, I kind of like the weekly release. Like the big show at the moment is Severance, and I'm so all about like going week to week and go, ooh, what's happening with the mysterious show, you know? Let's discuss the mystery.
The problem of talking about any kind of streaming show with friends is if it's dropped all at once, you may not be at the same point when you want to chat about it. So you have to go, oh, you're watching this? Yeah, I'm this far. Oh, okay, I won't talk about it.
And it's funny you talk about that because of this episode today.
Thank you for the segue
Seamless segue back to the point. Beautiful.
Alley-ooping a segue, just like in a basket segue game.
You get 50 index points to be spent at the gift shop.
And watch me absolutely derail it with riffs. But today we are reviewing Season 30, Episode 13. I'm dancing as fat as I can.
What?
First released in February 2019, it was directed by Matthew Nastuk, written by first-time Simpsons writer Jane Becker, who comes to us all the way from the Rick and Morty show, apparently. Anyway, in this episode, Homer binges the new season of Odder Things without Marge, and Marge is very upset, so to make it up to her, he starts taking dancing lessons. And in the B story, Krusty runs a competition where a lucky kid gets an unlimited shopping spree at his store. Hey guys, what did we think?
On paper, this episode sounds like it sucks. When I quickly read up about it, I was like, oh, okay. Because the problem is, and I've said this time and time again, the problem with me coming on this show is that I prime myself for hatred. And I didn't have that this time. I actually had fun.
Really?
I largely enjoyed this episode mainly because there's still like a lot wrong with it. I've already got my grade down at the bottom of my notes here because like this is how I felt for this episode. But I genuinely enjoyed it, and it's primarily because for the most part they really got me with a classic Homer Marge family story, and it felt a lot more intimate than episodes have in the past, especially in the last 20 years.
Interesting. To which I turn to BT, normally the bitter one. That's what BT stands for, bit to one. What do you reckon, mate?
Snooze fest. Look, there are ideas at play I actually quite like. I didn't get a single... I know, I'd lie. I got one good laugh at one point, I think. And look, the B story on this is so superfluous. It needs a total rewrite.
Yeah, 100%. It is without consequence. It doesn't matter, and forget about tying to the A story at all. It barely ties to its own ball and paddle. I don't know why this B story was there. And yeah, to your point, Sean, kind of getting in the way with what was working about this, which was, Homer trying to better himself for Marge, because we've seen a ton of these Marge and Homer fight episodes. You know, it's about how you vary it up and mix it up these days. And the angle that Homer is spending the majority, or at least a large chunk of the episode trying to better himself, is a massive tick in this one's favor.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing where if you just take the formula that works at its most basic, you can generally come away with a pretty easy win. Homer genuinely trying hard to be a good husband despite his myriad of faults is very endearing to watch, and you get an understanding of why Homer and Marge work in the first place. But to your point, BT, I remember I remember seeing Krusty come up for the first time, and I knew this was B-plot time. I was like, how the fuck is this going to tie into the A-plot? And then it didn't. So
Yeah,
it effectively does. And I think the B-plot actually makes this one pretty much go down a whole letter grade just for the lack of effort and just for the general feeling of just, you were padding time with this one.
Which is so interesting because they didn't need to. There was actually more there that they could have... Like, you've watched a lot more Simpsons than I have, but I can't remember if there are many classic Simpsons episodes that don't have a B-plot, that are just very focused and stick, or have everyone within the A-plot. I can't remember if that occurs or not, but it's possible.
Pretty sure it does. I think something like Mr. Plow's all A-plot, isn't it?
There's plenty of episodes that don't have a side story or anything, or even episodes that do have two completely, oil and water stories that don't intersect, that are perfectly fine or are perfect. But
so that's the functionality of a B-plot, is it gives the other one that kind of unseen time spent between transitions.
Yeah, and for, sometimes you use a B-plot, even if they're not related to, especially in a comedy show, offset the other emotion of the other one, because, the A-plot can be at risk, and especially in this one, of being so relationship-focused, of being a bit of a sadder story, so you use the B-plot for a bit of levity. But, that's where I'm going to rail against this one, is because, there's no consequence. It's just... Bart gets in the draw to win this sweepstake, and Lisa helps him cheat, but then it turns out she helped Ralph as well.
Does she, though? Does she even cheat? He doesn't really cheat.
No, not really.
She says to him, you'll find that winning by cheating isn't really winning at all. It's like, no, he asked you to help him. You sarcastically helped in quotation marks, but then he used that. So he literally told you, asked you to help him, and then you did.
But then Bart gets distracted by making dirt bike sounds, and I'm like, well, that's kind of the philosophy of this B story, isn't it?
Yes, right. Are either of you guys Star Trek fans? I'm going somewhere with this. Great. The series that I'm currently watching is I'm going through Voyager. Yep. And I literally just watched an episode this morning because 7 of 9 has just been introduced into the series. And what they just did with an episode is it's the first episode where she is not Borgish. So it's episode 2 of season 4. Anyway, it's called The Gift. And what they do is they've got an A-B plot that's kind of actually a 1-2 plot, but they're only relevant to each other insofar as they're a thematic dichotomy. For 7 of 9, she is being forced to leave the ship. And for Kes, it's kind of like they both want the same thing, but they're coming from different points. 7 of 9 wants to go back to the Borg, and Kes wants to be freed. And it ties into this idea of like freedom and choice and what we want versus what we need. And they're two diametrically opposed characters that have nothing to do with each other in the episode, but want the same thing. So there's a thematic relevance to them being completely separate, and that's why it works. This Simpsons plot, it's just like they had 2 ideas for an episode and went, let's put them together because we need time.
They both exist. Have you got to the salamander episode of Voyager yet? I think that's
yes, I have.
Okay, that was early in the run than I remembered it being.
Yeah.
That's a fucking weird episode.
Love it.
I'm intrigued, but this is not the Star Trek index, but like it already sounds way more interesting because at least Star Trek had the balls to like reinvent itself every few years, like unlike this show. But I mean, it did reinvent itself in another way, like branching out to other series, like, as Sean would know, a show called Futurama. And there's another show, Disenchantment, which I got to the halfway point of this episode and I'm like, why are they so on Netflix's balls on this one? Like, why are they just absolutely loving on this streaming service, which, I mean, the Disney deal hadn't gone fully through by season 30. And I'm like, are they playing both sides? But it's because Disenchantment was a Netflix show.
That answer, I was wondering how they were able to use everything Netflix related, because I'm like, they're not on Netflix, but Disenchantment is, of course. Okay.
Yeah, and that's where they got special guest star of this episode, Ted Sarandos, who made some really unfortunate jokes in here about price hikes and crippling the service. And yeah, it's funny, as we've discovered today, that Disney Plus are doing very fucking similar Netflix things at the moment. And yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Pirate shows, kids, especially ones that don't make enough effort. Anyway, getting into my editorialization, but I'll get into yours first, BT. What's something from this episode that stands out to you for better or worse?
So when this all centers around Marge not wanting Homer to watch their favorite show, Otter Stuff. Except I misheard it and I thought she said Otter Things, and I was like, I want to watch Otter Things. Things about otters, maybe in a spooky small town. Yeah, but give me that. Oh, you said Otter Stuff. Okay.
No,
I was imagining a better show, but please carry on, Simpsons.
Yeah, I want to see the Scandinavian crime drama Otter Stuff. Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting premise for the show. Like, it is something that we come up to in this new age of streaming is, the social contract that we have with the people we live with and, the watching of our show at the same time and holding off. And again, to bring it back to Severance, it was very hard to avoid watching episode 2 on my own while, like, me and my girlfriend just, like, were just missing the opportunities to make it happen. But all the more sweeter when you can avoid spoilers and such.
That's literally going to be my better or worse thing as well, but for a different, like kind of similarly to that. But it did harken me back to my times when I was studying acting at college, which was in this would have been 2013, when Game of Thrones was obviously all the fucking range before it ate its own tail. But like, I remember that being week to week of just being a point of going, I need to either avoid talking about it with anyone, or that's all I'm doing. I remember being in the elevator about to go to class, and my friend Felix was like, "Oh, have you seen the episode yet?" And I went, "Oh no, I haven't. I'm going to watch it tonight." And he just paused, turned to me, put his hand on my shoulder, gave me a very sad look, and then walked out of the elevator. And that was the Red Wedding.
Nice.
No.
Had a feeling it was going to be.
Our third most downloaded episode of Thrones of Game.
Oh, so
nice
good.
day for a Red Wedding, yeah.
Yeah. Our most downloaded episodes are the finale pilot and the pilot finale.
Well, people are going, what the fuck is this show?
Little teasers for our other podcasts that we do, but back to this one. Yeah, what stands out to me for better or worse? Look, Homer trying to better himself with the dancing is a nice move for the episode. Kind of unmotivated by anything, really, but
I mean, it's close. Like he does, through the
algorithm.
Through the avenue of the algorithm of Netflix. She loves these dance shows. But it's just weird that the culmination of that is Marge also doesn't know how to dance, and he just invites her to a big ball thing, and luckily he's figured it out for the both of them. I don't know. There's maybe a better conclusion to that.
I mean, I understand that because it's basically them saying she consumes all those shows, she likes them, but she doesn't do it. Yeah. And they set that up by going, right, if you lead the person, you can help them to do the thing. Like, so, like, I get it from that respect.
Live the dream
but
a little bit,
I take your point, Elliot.
Yeah, it was because I also had at the forefront of my mind 2 other episodes where this is of other shows where this is kind of the plot, where in Malcolm in the Middle, the kid Francis who's working on the ranch, I don't know how familiar you are with Malcolm in the Middle, but the head of the ranch, Otto, is this big lumbering German guy, and he wants to learn to dance for his dear Greta. But, like, whenever he's dancing with her, he keeps stepping on his toes. So, like, the gift ends up being he dances with Francis to prove he can do it.
Yeah.
And then also in Bob's Burgers, where Bob learns hip-hop dancing, which got a lot of recirculation with the whole ray gun things, but I digress.
Hey, it's Futurama with the holophone, where Fry attempts to learn it to better himself in front of Leela and then gets worms. Yeah.
Yeah. There's something to be said about trying to do something for someone, but you can't for some reason, but the fact that you're trying is really the emotion core.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing that I'm just really having a bit of a disconnect with this episode is that there seems to be, like, a theme set up at the start with Homer's impulse control and not being able to resist watching the show for when Marge comes back. And then him learning to dance where, like, I don't really get the connection between the two thematically. And then, the ending is, like you said, BT, Marge just turns up at the end and she can dance, and it's just a dance scene is a bit unsatisfying.
Yeah, I mean, they do talk about how one of the dance teachers teaches Homer to lead and dance at the same time, which is a bit weird. But so they kind of lay that foundation. But
as somebody who learned to dance, I do partially understand that. Like the amount of effort that goes into a leader, and you can kind of bullshit your way through a lot of that.
Yeah, and I do kind of think that works, especially when she's like, the more aggressive dance instructor is trying to stomp on Homer's feet to get him to step back the way he's supposed to. I kind of like that. It's like, forcing someone into the right steps.
No, and that's what I was vibing with is that, the Julia, the pretty blonde girl, her, like, very nice approach, wasn't working for Homer. It was like that, like, militaristic, here's the demands, do it or there's consequence,
Yeah.
Maybe that's tying in with the, like, impulse control or something like that, but a bit more, I don't know. It's a weak link at best.
I do feel like that needs to be a bit more of the focus of it, because Homer initially tries to avoid it, and I kind of like him being at work trying to avoid spoilers from all his coworkers talking about it. But then the reason he starts watching is the Netflix guy just appears on the TV, and for some reason Maggie is fighting an owl in the background, and he just says...
That bit I didn't like.
Yeah.
Yes. This is what, like, Danny was yelling at it about the television last week. It's Simpsons getting bored with their own plots and just drawing something in the background because they're bored.
Or just scared that you're getting bored of the plot information they'd give. It's like, anyway, just back on track for a sec. Yeah, so it's, the TV convinces Homer to watch the whole thing, whereas I feel like if you were talking about impulse control, maybe he can't sleep and he just kind of goes downstairs, or maybe he catches, like, the first scene and is like, I'll just stay for the opening credits, and then you stay for the first episode, and you're like, well, that was a cliffhanger, now I really need to know what happens next. Yada. We've all done that of, like, I'll see how the next episode starts, and then I'll go to bed, and then it's 2 a.m.
4 hours later,
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, tying into his impulse control there, whereas learning to dance requires you to, ignore your impulse to sit down and not do it. It requires dedication and effort that he's displaying, so that's the better moral lesson. But
it's tied in with just Ted Sarandos popping in to just move the plot along, and, like...
and if you're bored of that plot, there's Maggie fighting an owl.
Yeah. So what did you like about this one, Sean? I feel like, we've been ragging on it pretty hard. What are the positives you drew from this?
Everything you said, I disagree with.
Hell yeah, discourse. Let's go.
Because I do fundamentally think that there's a more foreseeable tie there through Homer's actions and his impulses. Like, it's actually less about his impulse control, more about the fact that he tries really fucking hard.
Yeah.
He tries so hard to avoid it in every possible way, and similar to how, like, me, when I watched the Royal Rumble yesterday, I literally have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I do not go on anything until I'm ready to watch it. And then I will. And it just so happens that, like, he's only a man, people.
Damn it.
And he eventually starts watching it, and he knows that he really fucks up. So the tie there is then, like, you then focus on it's less about his impulse control and more about his relationship with Marge. He fundamentally, like, ruins her trust, because she makes it explicitly clear.
Yeah.
You can forget my marriage birthday, you can forget my birthday anniversary, but, like, this show, this little, and maybe it's because, now I've got a partner and I'm in love, so I care about all this stuff a lot more. But for me, it's from how he betrays her trust to how he wins it back, and what fundamentally goes into the crux of what made those classic Simpson, Homer, and Marge episodes work. So I guess partially I can concede that a lot of it is kind of me looking back at what works on classic episodes and appreciating how they're actually making an effort to do that as opposed to just the bullshit. I mean, 20% of this episode is still Family Guy cutaways, which I'm very annoyed with. And I was hoping that maybe by season 30 they may have lent back on it, like lent off it a bit. Doesn't seem like they have as much. Maybe I'm wrong. But I fundamentally enjoy them having a through line and focusing on Marge and Homer for the majority of it. And had they just taken the Bart and Lisa weird side tangent away, then that would have been fine. Like, you don't even need to focus on them at all. Maybe they're just in the background. Maybe they could have just been encouraging Homer as a prank to watch odder things anyway, and not understanding the ramifications of how bad that is for him. And then at the end, when Lisa's like, this is the happiest I've ever seen them. Oh, I get it now. I get why that's important.
Would have been a very nice tie through, yeah.
Yeah, because the kids were initially teasing him and being all like, haha, we get to watch it, but you have to wait. And like the idea that, they could be teasing him with spoilers is like a better use of them for the episode.
Yeah.
Because, to bring it back to the Royal Rumble, like, because I'd planned to watch it at a pub with friends, but also my girlfriend, she is a massive wrestling fan, and she had to go to a baby shower, and she's like, oh, just please, can we watch it later in the night as well? And I'm like, yeah, fine, I'll watch the Rumble twice in one day.
Jeez.
But it was an exercise in just like not reacting to anything she was saying or speculating about the whole thing, because I know the results throughout the whole thing, and it is a surprising result. And even saying that is like, so I'm meant to be looking for a surprise? What's
No. Don't look for the plot twist.
Yeah, and I just, anything she'd say, I would be like, okay.
Which then also makes you feel bad because they're like, oh, you're not engaging with what I'm saying. It's because I can't.
Yeah. But no, it's still a fun time. Very good Rumble. Like,
I also like that the wrestling might be the direct opposite of a baby shower. I'm not sure, but it seems like that. Those are polar extremes.
Yeah, life and death somehow.
Yeah, I'm guessing me and all the boys gathering at the pub to watch the Royal Rumble together was the direct opposite to what the girls were doing at the baby shower. But anyway, how was the wackiness of this episode? Was this a particularly cartoony episode of The Simpsons?
I mean, Maggie fights an owl, but I already mentioned that.
Yeah.
It feels weirdly grounded for me. Like, there are still, like, even their cutaways and such still seem like an attempt to just be random rather than to be wacky, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they have these, I feel like there's a wacky animation moment, one that I really liked, which was Marge being like, okay, Homer, I'm going away, here's all the stuff I've done, I've already made a loaf of PB&J.
Yeah,
and
that
I
was
just
my
loved
best
the
laugh.
visual of that. But then I felt like it was undone by, and I set the Roomba to auto-clean for your mess, and it just cuts away to the Roomba just going...
exploding.
Bunter around, and it's just like, but I really loved the PB&J loaf.
I know.
That was my biggest up hour of the episode. That was really funny.
Yeah, and cartoony moments in terms of like the shopping montage. Like, I don't know, that did nothing to me. I feel like its best joke was Bart and Milhouse hurtling towards the display of toys from Solo, a Star Wars movie, and they were like, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "Fuck off! Kids aren't that discerning. They probably loved that flick."
No, that's an adult joke.
I love the toys.
Yeah, I know, and
it doesn't need to be like it was. It was funny because I remember watching Solo and being disappointed, but it does not need to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, so also the Apocalypse Now reference of Ralph slowly emerging from the bucket of slime. It's like, guys, who are you writing this one for? I get it, and I don't think it's funny. So.
I mean, a fair enough swerve at the end to make Ralph the thing the whole way, but like, I'm just wondering throughout watching this why are we doing this?
Yeah, had that been a weird episode in itself, I don't know, you can do a Willy Wonka parody episode, sure.
Yeah.
They probably already have, but it's very strange. I will say that I did like the Apocalypse Now reference because that harkens back to old classic Simpsons of going, we're going to throw in references that we know 99% of you are not going to understand, and that's fine. And we're not going to explain it.
Yeah. I think my show was just very slow, and I was like, if you don't know what's going on right now, this makes like if it's a quick visual reference, sure, but
well, I say it works without knowing the reference because if you don't know the reference, then it's just like
creepy Ralph.
Ralph was smarter than we gave him credit for the whole time. Look, and it's like a sneaky little music drop. So
kind of sounding like the end. Yeah.
And other cartoony moments, Homer learning to dance. I actually liked all this.
Like once we finally get there, we're halfway through the episode. I'm like, okay, we're finally at the point. Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, as also as someone with 2 left feet, like I completely relate to this. Also as someone who sweats buckets, just
Yeah.
My gosh, it's like my life is on screen. Yeah, my only another note of whack is, we're doing the montage while Homer's binge watching it. He's, there's a bit where he's burping Maggie and then it cuts and he's burping Barney. And I was just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Have a quick, hang on a second. Hey, Jordan's Anal Corner.
now with live Foley.
There's a bit where, he's dancing with Julia as the dance instructor, I think.
Yes.
Yep. And, she has a decent line of like, okay, when you step on my toes, that hurts.
Yeah.
But like, I went back and watched again. He's clearly stepping backwards when he's doing that. It is impossible for him to be stepping on her toes. I mean, really, guys, do you think we don't have feet?
Unless otherwise that's her fault because she
know,
has
she's
slid
somehow-
way too far forward.
Getting way behind him. It's like, no. They thought we wouldn't notice. I noticed. Failure episode.
But how about the heart of this one? I think that's what this one's mostly leaning on. Did we like the emotional moments?
I did, simply because when you actually had the final dance sequence with them together, it hit me. Like I generally was like, oh wow, this like has, I'm not full on bawling or anything, but it just gave me that pang of like,
it's nice.
oh, this is actually nice, and this is what I'm missing. I really hope you guys actively finish this episode here without ruining it. And they did. They like mostly stuck the landing on that. And I went, cool. That's what Homer and Marge is about. There's
that bit where she runs and jumps into his arms and they spin around. And that was a really good moment. I do think Lisa's little speech that she has puts way too much of a lampshade on
it's
it.
on the nose.
Yeah. And like you said, if it had tied back to the kids previously, I think that would have actually made sense and work. Because she has this line of like, I've never seen Mum and Dad this happy before. This is, so romantically in love. And it's like, girl, you should watch The Simpsons. They do this like 2-3 times a season.
Yeah, and it's a sort of moments like this where I don't like a Marge and Homer story coming along because of the lack of effort to acknowledge the memory. Like when Marge finds out that Homer's been watching Otter stuff or whatever it is, she goes, I finally learned how little you care about me or whatever like that, or how little you think of it. It's just finally learned? Like, season 30, lady.
There'd be something to saying like, I gave you a simple task of not doing something and you couldn't even do that. That's, yeah.
And what? It does strike me as a thing where I have to also accept that after 30 years of The Simpsons, a lot of writers are also going, right, we have a new generation of people that aren't counting on 30 years of history. We can just, a lot of that stuff, which doesn't, like, we're still going to call it out. We're still going to see it. But I can understand why they might be like, yeah, we can say these things and blah, blah, because we're adhering to the 15-year-olds now or the 10-year-olds now.
Yeah, true. And like in a bubble like that.
Yeah, there is that baffling question of like, do you rely on the history or not? Because you really, it's a little bit damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And it's such a different show now. So
early heart moment I really liked was Marge has a line of like holding hands in a darkened room with my head on your shoulder. She does say it's the glue that holds us together. I think that's too much. I think it could just be simple of, is the nicest part of my week or something like that. Because saying it's the glue holding the marriage together is like, okay, you should probably split up then. If that's, if your breakfast at Tiffany's is the only thing you have in common, then this is doomed. But, another 15-year-old reference.
But ultimately, does it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? Is this the show we know and love? Is this the characters we know and love?
I mean, it's the pretty familiar beats. I would say slightly mishandled, especially in the B plot. But yeah, this is the show.
Krusty is still Krusty. We've seen it time and time again. No one's watching the show. What can we do? Ill-advised solution. Moe's still Moe.
Yeah.
Moe is one of my favorite jokes in this episode as well, but I'll get onto that in the.
No, we're here. What was that one?
Where he pivots, just like, you mean Homer? I thought you meant Homer the Iliad. Oh, he hadn't been around since like 720 BC. And I just love also that Moe knows that.
Yeah, one of those preloaded knowledges in a character you wouldn't expect, but also just what other Homer do you throw to?
Yeah, to make a joke, to write off the excuse that Homer's apparently been giving Marge that he's been going to Moe's. Yeah. I think that's kind of what bugs me about the Krusty story as well, because like it's not necessarily off point, but it's just boring to watch play out.
It's also pretty late. Like,
Yes.
I initially thought, because, Marge originally leaves, we haven't even talked about this, to go see her Aunt Eunice, who is on her deathbed. And then there's a bit with Patty and Selma, how they're basically shotgunning all her stuff before she's even passed away, who's going to inherit it. And I thought that was going to be a plot, but it's not. It just goes away. And you're like, oh. And so when the Krusty thing comes in, I'm like, oh, we're doing a third plot now.
Yeah.
So then maybe there's something more about, waiting for the good things in life, like inheritance. It's not a great connection. Or like, barging ahead with what you want with no regard of what the other person wants. There's a tangent at least.
Yeah, but I mean, like with Krusty, I feel like we're just watching the same beats play out of like, his approach to show business. But, in contrast, the Marge Homer story, it is a very typical, so like it does feel like a Simpsons. I don't necessarily think they're doing heaps different with it, but it's not as... I didn't find myself coming away at the end of the episode, Marge, leave this man, which...
which we have on previous ones.
Many times. So, but yes or no, would you watch this one again?
If you asked me to.
I'm somewhat motivated by Sean's positivity to give it another try.
Yeah. I like it, but I would only if, I was using your Disney Plus account and I had a reason to watch it. Or if it came up. But if normal TV comes back around to being a thing and was on there, I'd sit down and watch it.
Hey, as streaming prices go up and up and up, and as you can share your account with fewer and fewer people, we might be going back towards...
Yay!
Hell, I'm even personally making a march back towards physical media as well. I've started re-evaluating and wanting to build up my DVD and Blu-ray collection again.
Oh, yeah. Because my girlfriend doesn't have any streaming connected to her house, I literally brought around my old DVD player.
Nice.
And it was fun. We watched special features.
Oh.
See, and that's the other thing. Streaming never capitalized on that. It's,
Also, hi, honey. You're my special feature.
No.
She doesn't listen to this. I'm kidding.
What would you change about this episode, BT?
The B plot is the easiest, most obvious. And
Damn,
the
you stole my answer.
I know. The A plot's fine. You just need to tighten up them dogs a little bit. Because I think the economy of storytelling is really weak on this one. Like, this whole thing starts with Homer getting a phone call at 2:30 a.m. from Bart, who's at Milhouse's, and he wants to go home. And it's like, this is a lot of scene to cut to Bart and Milhouse. Milhouse is like, okay, now read me the story. And then he gives audio directing. And it is a long bit that is unnecessary.
And I feel like it's a joke for us three who have worked in audio directing of actors.
It's a note for me. I've got it. I love the joke because I've been in that situation.
Yeah.
But also, as you said, that's a minute, a full minute.
If not more, it's a pretty
it's a
decent
big
chunk.
bit. Yeah.
Just to get to another phone call happens. And even where that goes to doesn't necessarily need to be there either.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are other ways for Marge to find out about Eunice. So, and there's something kind of funny, and she says, I'm going to have to go down and see her. And Homer's like, oh no, poor Marge. Wait a second, she said I, not we. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Sean? What would you like to change?
B plot. It's that's once again, it's the easy one, but I would just look at that as tying them to the binge watching, keep it a familial story. I might even take away the Eunice thing and just find a much more simpler way just for Marge to be away for a day. Just hey, I know we were actually going to spend the day watching, binging the series, but can we do that tonight instead? And then by the time she comes back tonight, he's already watched it or whatever.
Yeah, you don't even need to show her going to Eunice's because, like Beach said, that scene sets up something that it absolutely had no intention of following up on. So, she can say, oh, my Aunt Eunice is sick. She goes away. We don't need to see Aunt Eunice or anything.
You know what? Give Julie Kavner a break. Her voice is hurting. Her voice is hurting.
Especially to do Patty and Selma, who are
God,
even more gruff than Marge. Yeah.
What's the episode where Marge is supposed to be there and Homer's like, she had to go identify a body at the morgue. And he's like, well, that's not my uncle. That man isn't dead.
Yeah.
That's a quick, punchy little cutaway to what she's actually doing, and that was all you needed, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, my one big thing of change is I just wish the outcome of the dancing was just a little bit funnier. It is a very sweet moment, and, we like it when Simpsons do heart endings, but, I wanted something more complex. I like how his dance instructor had to change from the nice approach to the militaristic, here's the clear instructions with as few words as possible. but kind of like had me in the end like fantasy booking, like Homer tries dancing with Marge, it's not working, but then he's like, Marge, you lead. And then that works. And then I think you can have comedy with that as well, with Marge leading and dipping Homer and stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
Because, I mean, the result we got of the dancing was just a nice dance sequence. I don't know. Maybe I want to undercut a nice moment in this, but like, I didn't come away from this with enough laughs for a comedy show. All right, we are here. It's time for our final notes.
No, final notes. Everyone's final notes. We're trying to get things through things quicker these days. So.
Sean, do you have any final notes?
I've got many, but I'll just rollick through them. Things I liked. I liked that he changed his voice to be much sadder when he got the second phone call and went, yellow. I liked marriage birthday and birthday anniversary. Those are two things that I want to start including in my repertoire of things to say.
Yeah, that was a fun turn of phrase to call the anniversary the marriage birthday and the birthday the birth anniversary or whatever.
It actually gave me a laugh out loud chuckle when Lenny says he's got a low fence, just referring to why he chose Stephen King's fence to throw it over as opposed to the Duffer Brothers. He's like, oh, he's got a low fence. And just the delivery of that was like, when it's just like very simple delivery that's not like, it's just delivery can make a joke work if it's deadpan. Love it.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know why, but for some reason I really enjoyed the odder things like recommended list included Alf as its first TV show.
Yeah, because shows like this, it's like shows set in the 80s with monsters, and it was like Alf and Roseanne and Cosby Show. And
could have been Mork and Mindy, could have been a whole bunch of things, but like they really fucking loved them back then.
Yeah.
I just loved the poetic nature of the icy rays of frost coming from my bitter soul. Marge referring to because Homer has to sleep in her bed. I'm like, whoa.
To feel the vibes.
Yeah, she's really sinking the boot in there.
And just as a note, like, man, we're still shitting on Sideshow Mel, aren't we?
Yeah, that never reached a fun joke for me. Like him drowning and then busting out of the thing, and then he starts flopping around like a fish.
The fish thing pissed me off.
That I didn't like, but I did like the line of "Never buy a trick from a magician's widow."
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Or Day with Krusty is actually Day with Sideshow Mel.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad actually.
And that's it.
How about you, BT?
There's a bit where someone says, that's the squat you get, diddly, and that cuts to Ned, and Ned's like, you can't say diddly on TV. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, shut up.
Like, what does he think it means? Does he think he's been swearing this entire time as a complete contrast to his entire character? It's really weird. I don't know why that's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. I do like how they animate Julia as she walks in the room but kind of dance walks, and like they kind of have her doing dance moves to just do simple things like get a cup of water. I thought that looked pretty good. Ditto when Homer has learned to dance and he comes home and is all like, going
tapping
upstairs
up
to
and down
Marge.
the stairs.
Yeah, but when no one's watching, he kind of, it gives him the joy for what he's doing. It's not just a chore he's doing for Marge. He's actually taking some pride and some delight out of this.
Yeah. Oh, another note of change. Yeah. Again, take the B story and have more moments of Homer doing that, and then Marge getting like suspicious. It's like, why are you so happy right now? I'm still mad at you. You should be.
Yeah. How are you so dexterous right now?
Yeah, and they should be catching it out, and like the secret comes to a head and blah. Anyway, storytelling.
Yes. And then kind of a back and forth. I didn't like when Homer says something about Lisa says just desserts, and Homer's like, did you say just desserts, Dad? It's just an expression. Then they're outside a store that says just desserts. However, I did like the delivery of the shop owner coming out and goes, I do have to warn you, there's just desserts.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that
Homer wouldn't be disappointed by that.
No,
That's my
he
problem.
wouldn't. Even if he just went, woohoo, at the end.
He had an existential crisis being a Simpsons 3D model in a human world, but was brought back to
Comforted
happiness by
erotic
seeing
cakes.
erotic cakes. If he walked in, it's only erotic cakes, there's no chips there. What is this joke? Sorry.
Real
Excuse
mixed
me.
bag, but I did like the line delivery on just the guy apologetically telling people, it's not just the name. We only have desserts on our
Yeah. I'm really sorry. We've only got desserts now.
And then this, maybe this is a new segment. I have no idea. Look, in this crazy technology-driven world, we have to ask ourselves every now and then, am I going to be replaced with AI? So I asked Meta, out of a rank of 6, what would they give this what would the thing, give its episode? I don't know what it's called. Anyway, so it said, I'd give it a 4 out of 6, so that would be a silver. The episode reviewed generally positive reviews from critics, that's not your opinion, but that's other people, but whatever, with many praising the humorous satirical take on social media obsession and body image issues. However, opinions may vary, and some viewers may find the episode's tone or pacing not to their liking. I think our job is safe, that's a terrible review.
I wish this was a video podcast because the second BT said meta, Elliot's expression was gold.
Oh, damn, I missed it. I was looking at my phone screen.
It's, it's AI, man. It's still...
It's a lot. I figured maybe I could squeeze a segment out of it, though.
Well, yeah, once again, I'm here disagreeing with AI.
What a surprise, because it's talking about body image issues and social media. I'm like, nope.
No.
None of those. Nope. All your stolen data, and it's still not right.
And look, you guys hit on my pretty much all my final notes, except they did a drawing of Homer fantasizing Marge as BoJack Horseman, and it wasn't exactly a cutaway, but felt like one of just like, no, this show's depressing. It's just like, you notice BoJack Horseman's the thing. But then, yeah, there are actually a few good music drops as well with the dancing as well. And I'm always here for a bit of Dave Brubeck. Unsquared Dance is a great song, but in 7/4, notoriously very hard to dance to. That's it from Music Theory Corner. And for this episode review, it is time to rank this thing. On the Simpsons Index, we rank using a 6-point scale, which starts down the bottom at failure. Maybe if the episode was just, you give it a participant. But for the positive rankings, you got okay bronze, good silver, excellent gold, but for the best of the very best, you give cubic zirconia. I'm going to go first. Let me show you how it's done. Look, Sean, I won't lie, you had sort of talked me up on this episode and sort of highlighted some of its stronger elements, but I can't help the way I was feeling in the moment, and that's participant. I'd flirted with moving up to a bronze ranking, but I'm just not quite there, especially when I think about other bronzes we've reviewed. It's just not quite there for me personally.
Yeah.
BT.
I mean, just what you said, only in my voice. So you could dub that in.
AI, do that. Oh, man. Actually, Riverside, the program we use for facilitating these voice calls, actually does have like an AI thing where like it can model your voice, and I tried it out, but it's weird because it's like my tone of voice, but it doesn't have like an Australian filter. It's an American accent.
Oh, that's incredible.
It is
American
so
Elliot.
Horrible.
So you're saying you don't want to be an American Elliot?
Sean, please finish this off.
Well, I'm gonna emulate an AI voice, and I'm gonna say silver. I wrote down silver here at the bottom of my notes here because I knew that's how I was feeling at the moment. I was so pleasantly surprised by the quality of this episode, and it still can't help but retain a lot of the fails and foibles that a lot of new Simpsons has, and it hasn't kind of rectified.
Fall into the same traps.
Yeah, and it hasn't figured out how to work out its like spontaneous humor, I say in quotation marks, with its cutaway gags and weird secondary plots, but I just felt the A plot was so goddamn strong, and since I was coming in wanting to hate it, or like unwillingly wanting to hate it, because that's just where I'm at.
It's hard not to set yourself up for that.
Human being. Silver. And I feel fine about that because I think I might drag those participants up to at least something.
Yeah, it turns this one into a dull bronze. And so for individual medal rankings, season 30, Sean, you've now given it its highest medal ranking so far of the 20 episodes or near that we've done so far. Nothing's gotten above a bronze, but like it is now still equal first with our other top-rated episode of the season, the dull bronze of My Sports, where Bart gets into League of Legends and the Simpsons go to Korea.
Great.
This show is wild.
Yeah, they go places. But yeah, look, I mean, season 30 as well, this is an interesting one because, yeah, this is our second worst season with overall rankings, and it's far and away the worst of the 30s that we've reviewed so far, where, you know, a lot of articles that say Simpsons is back, blah, 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 blah. But, like, season 31 onwards, there is, like, a more of a smack of effort. So it's part of the reason I wanted to bring this one to you today, Sean, is, like, so here's where they were before the Disney buyout or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to now check out an episode from season 33 called Pretty Whittle Liar. We will be back. And we are back, and we just reviewed another episode. This one from a couple of years later. This was Season 33, Episode 16, Pretty Whittle Liar. First released in March of 2022, it was directed by Mike Frank Polcino, written by Joel H. Cohen. In this episode, Brandine Spuckler has revealed she's recently become a bit more intelligent and has likes a love of books.
Yeah.
And in a complimentary B story, Lisa is finding her intelligence at school is making her the mark of bullies, so finds the secret society of secret nerds who are pretending to be dumber than they actually are while actually studying and getting smarter by themselves. Hey, y'all, what do we think?
I hate it.
Oh, Sean, I was like, I wonder what positive take he's going to have on this one. Maybe he can warm my icy heart.
Yeah, you go, BT.
No, I look, this fixes a lot of the problems we were complaining about on the last one.
Yes!
And yet I feel because of that, I'm more disappointed that it doesn't land.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we were talking about how, the A and B plots, they actually have something in common for this one. There's an actual sense of through line. There's a lot of the issues we had on the last one are better. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we got the beginning of this, I'm like, I'm actually having a pretty good time. This is the first, first act, maybe first half of the act, I don't know. And then things just slow down and yeah.
It felt like it dragged along. I was like, how long is this episode? It felt drastically long. I appreciated that the A plot and the B plot actually tied into one another and was doing what I was talking about with Voyager earlier, which is, they do end up, it's more a thematic similarity between the two, but then it does actually, storytelling-wise, come together as well, which makes it even better. But everything around that, my fundamental issue is, first of all, I don't trust The Simpsons to handle, at least these days, to handle a story about the lower class with any sort of class. But also, simultaneously, there's a part of me that goes, given the political landscape that's kind of made itself much more fervently known over the past year, I am like, this is kind of what happens when you don't educate yourself. So I'm conflicted on those 2 points. But at the same point, I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up, Simpsons.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and it's so good to have the point of comparison with these two, because with the B story, when it sort of tied in with Lisa's intelligence and the idea of having to suppress it at risk of being ostracized,
hide it to survive.
It really made me so disappointed that the B story was still treated with the same level as disregard as the B story in the previous one, because it is of such little consequence again. And the whole secret society and stuff, and then the stand-up moment of the I'm Smarticus, it doesn't land. It doesn't tie into anything else that was happening. And the whole Lisa and Brandine having, when the stories converge, I'm like, all right. But then even Brandine kind of dismisses it in a way where Lisa's like, oh, yes, I should embrace being myself. Smart stuff. And then Brandine goes, slow down, Poindexter. And it's like, oh, you really didn't give a shit, did you?
And she was just going to go back home and pretend to be, quote unquote, dumb again anyway. So there was no lesson learned there for her initially either. I was so confused by a lot of everyone's judgments and their character arcs and such, and it just did not compute. And it's so funny how little I cared about the homage C plot.
Yes.
Yeah, which
in this episode.
Again, I think this needed to be cut because you need more breathing space for the A and B.
I do like the idea, though, that Marge is kind of judgmental on Brandine and didn't look inwards on her own life, and that it's then set up for Homer to recognize that and improve, but
there's definitely a neat joke in Marge being like, wait, does everyone think I could have done better? And the whole supermarket is like,
yes.
Yeah.
Which, yes.
Yeah, because throughout the whole Simpsons history of Marge and Homer problems, I don't think she's ever gone before, could I have done better? It's maybe been implied, but I never know if it's been outright stated.
But yeah, like you were saying, Peach, it just doesn't have enough room to breathe either. And then the resolution is just Homer, next scene fixing the problems that she established in the last one, and it doesn't have a build or a satisfying ending because of that. It's literally Homer just doing a patch job on the roof and saying, okay, well, our marriage is fixed for another week.
Yeah.
Oh, poor thing. Like, and also then on top of that, the thing that I was complaining about, worrying that The Simpsons is going to fall back on is the Family Guy cutaways. No, it doesn't do that as much. It does do the other thing that I hated New Simpsons doing, which is just bringing in random side characters for one kind of like non sequitur jokes that are just about them and that. Like you know what really pissed me off? Fuck off, Disco Stew. What are you doing?
Oh my God. Yeah.
That is, to me, is like one of the quintessential problems with modern, not just Simpsons, but like a lot of modern comedy as well. It's like you know what I mean.
Like one-note characters that, had great moments in their establishing days, but I mean, it's like Gil in the other episode where it's just like, oh, here's old Gil doing an old Gil line. Same here. And what really pissed me off about that is like, that supermarket scene, I enjoyed that. And like, even the clerk going reality check on Marge Simpson, like it's a hacky sitcom-y time.
Sure.
But like, I'm like, that was the time and place to do it. But then, I'm Disco Stew, and I'm telling you, I need glue, and also you need to break up with, like, it's just fuck off. Yeah, it is. Massive fuck off moment. Was that a moment that stood out to you for better or worse, Sean?
You know what? I'm sure I can get a better one here. No, the moment that stood out for me is kind of what I was talking about, which was that weird kind of conflicting early thoughts I had, which is around being kind of, in this day and age, like really over the kind of punching down of the lower class, but by the same token, like being well aware of how the lack of education, the lack of critical thinking is what has kind of put a lot of like the world stage where it's at currently. So it's both being annoyed at The Simpsons for trying to tackle it, but also just being absolutely kind of mortified at its real world effects now. So that's kind of what it made me think about, comedy.
Well, I mean, tying into that as well, like there were just moments where I just didn't get the motivations and where they were going with this, because it's a problem you can talk about with Lisa feeling like she can't be outwardly intelligent in school, or she can't actually people. And then it comes into Principal Skinner as well, who's like, I'm like, what are your fucking motivations?
Yeah, that was weird.
You have never been presented as this. Like, I don't even know what your character wants in this moment, let alone...
Now, the very end with Skinner when, they all do the I am Smarticus thing, and then he's all just has a thing of... He's opposed to it. It's, oh, no, I've got to quell this quickly. It's like, why?
It's not a rebellion. It's just people being like, it's not... There's nothing that's going to hinder his school or what he wants. Like, I've got smart people? Oh.
Because they even trying to, explain away how there's always been these smart kids, but they've, stayed off the, what's it called, honor roll.
Yes.
And then Skinner finding out his honor roll is like 5 times bigger than he thought would be massive for him.
And would get Super Nintendo Chalmers on his back.
Yeah, and like that's the other... Like Skinner has never been like an oppressor in that way. He's always been a proud educator and always wanting better, and a smart dude. Like, he would know the meaning of the word bemused.
Yes, and also part of his story arc has always been... the school sucks and the facilities suck and their lack of like funding and all that sucks, and he has to work within that. So often he's beaten down to the point where he might seem like a bad educator, but he's never actively internally like gone against
resented
it and
the children for being intelligent.
Yeah, it's a disenfranchisement with the system, not with education.
Yeah. And the classroom after classroom of ugly children.
How about you, BT? What stands out to you for better or worse?
I'm going to give it a half positive comment, in the sense that when we started this one, I'd heard about, the premise that Cletus finds out Brandine is smart. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. That said, it had a bit more balance than I was expecting, because Cletus does have a fairly decent point of, you hid who you were from me for years, which would hurt no matter what your relationship was like. Like, I expected going in this, he'd find out Brandine was smart, and they'd be like, oh, you gotta get out of here, and that'd be about it. But no, the fact that he's more about the sense of betrayal, and they kind of try to bring in, like, he feels like she's mocking his heritage, which doesn't really work. So
no,
it's there. At least the concept of balance is there. It doesn't pan out properly, but there's at least an attempt at nuance.
Yeah, look, the other half positive I'll also give it is that from the premise, I thought it was going to be she reveals she was smart the whole time. That's not what it is. It's just a recent tornado delivered a bookmobile that like...
that was some wackiness I did laugh.
Yeah. And like that's a fair thing to do. You know what? Brandine is a stay-at-home mom, and like that's just an easy connection to make. That this is a hobby she picked up, and it's like not necessarily that she was hiding pre-existing intelligence. Is that she's just gotten a love of reading, and because of that, her a world has opened up to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's also, like, you can understand it partially from both perspectives where you go, yeah, for her, it was shown very simply in the way that her book mates reacted to her just saying one sentence. They're like, what the fuck? And she's like, hurley-haley-he. And yet, from his perspective, he's like, no, I still love her emphatically, but she lied to me. Yeah. There's that broken trust, so you can understand it. And there's like character motivation there, but then just everything kind of around it just doesn't help to bolster it any further.
No, that's it. It's just the moment-to-moment stuff of watching this episode play out is so... It's bad. I didn't like it. Yeah, like and it just turns into Brandine living with the Simpsons, but then there's not like a lot of fun around that either. Like
no, they have like she makes them a possum pie or something,
a porcupine or something. Oh, no, that was earlier.
Yeah. That was about it.
She tries to give Cletus an apology porcupine. Yeah, again, not a bad joke, but
and I liked the promise that the B plot represented. Like I was like, oh, that'd be cool to follow an episode of Lisa going against her better instincts and trying to hide her intellect and what that kind of does for her, and especially like there's a good promise there.
I just really wish they'd taken that on a different route. Like they find a group of people explaining to her, you can hide your intelligence by doing these things and no one's going to know and therefore you won't be a target, is better than this secret society, which just feels like a retread of episodes we've already done, like when Lisa joins Mensa, when Bart joins the secret society of smart kids at school.
Yeah. It's one of these shames where they feel like they get rid of like an entire active plot into just a small montage or a small series of jokes where it's like, figuring out smart ways for kids to still use their intelligence while simultaneously, supposedly hiding it. Like the whole baseball thing.
Yes.
And using, math to be better at sports is a smart way to go about it.
That was one of my good notes here. I loved the, be a jock by being a nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it just felt like they came up with that one good idea and didn't have a lot of other ones to follow it up with. And and especially if you're going to introduce one-time characters like they had in this moment, they just lacked any depth. And it's like I find myself going, well, where's Martin and the rest of the nerds in all this? Like,
Hey, I got a question for you, new Simpsons watchers. Speaking of one-time characters, is Femme Bully a new character, or is that someone that's been introduced?
Oh, that's Shauna. Her catchphrase is, I'm Shauna.
Yeah.
And her one big character trait is that she is Shauna.
Yeah.
Great.
And she's Chalmers' daughter, we find out eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. I've been introduced to a new character.
Like, there is a weird history of Chalmers losing his wife and becoming this sole parent to this child.
What? Very great.
Very in the background. They do eventually like bring it to the forefront for one episode, but there have been hints in previous episodes.
Yeah,
damn, what happens in 30 years, right?
Yeah, because like Shauna was introduced like mid to late teens, and then like Chalmers, they started giving a few more like focused episodes. I think he's had like 3 total, and like the whole Shauna connection was a very like throwaway joke at the time that they have since capitalized on. And like one of my more favorite episodes, I think it was actually this or the next season, Living La Pura Vida, where there's a big family group holiday to go to Puerto Rico, and Shauna and Chalmers are there, and there's an interesting dynamic going on there. I recommend that episode.
Nice.
Not this one so much. So how was it in terms of wackiness? Was this a particularly cartoony episode?
Yeah.
Some early whack I liked is Marge comes in, puts a coaster under Homer's beer, then puts 4 coasters under his feet. I could have done without her winching him up and putting a coaster under his butt, but the feet coasters I got a chuckle out of.
And kind of adding on to that, where they just go into the fourth wall break of turning The Simpsons quickly into a reality TV editing thing. Like, that's wacky. I didn't like it, but but it's wacky.
Looked bad, didn't like it at all.
So stupid. Just one of these Simpsons jokes where they're like, oh, look at this stupid format of television. Isn't it stupid? And it's like, come on, guys. Rocks, glass houses, all that sort of stuff.
And also, they didn't do it long enough either, which is weird for me to say, but you can't comment on it if you only do it for like a 5-second... It doesn't read.
Yeah, because all it was is like a title card of Homer's name, and then just like cutting different shots of him sitting there, and then the same thing for Marge when she walks in the room. I was like, this isn't anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, again, irrelevant first joke, act, fuck you, whatever. But yeah, starting out with here's a parody of $1 Million Listing sort of shows. And then, montage of bad Springfield homes, and we only have $1 million home in this town.
Oh,
and
damn.
they go to Burns' house. Who's like, I'm not looking to leave. This is a good area for schools, and I might have kids, which goes into a Smithers fantasy of Burns' kids fighting to the death, which I hate on a fundamental level is because you're already doing a reality show parody joke. You don't cut away to a fucking thought bubble joke.
Because that implies Smithers' thought bubble is on the television. And also, his daydream is kids that look like Burns fighting to the death. And I think he's smiling. It's like, you would. There's so many things is stupid.
Burns
about
would
that.
think that. You wouldn't.
You know what I love about this as well is that there might be people listening to this for the first time that's like, you're going way too deep into this sort of shit. And I'm like, no, but that's the point, because comedy still has to follow logic and a train of thought, and the way that you present it to people, especially with 30 years of history, or even just in the format of the show you're existing it in now, it still needs to follow that logic. Otherwise, even if you don't understand it, visually, it's going to come off weird.
You're 100% right. And it also... Again, something that we talked about in the last segment is them putting in something in the background because they're getting bored of their own story when Cletus and Brandine are talking to each other, and all of a sudden there's a crocodile and a snake fighting in the background, and it's just like, you guys, focus. Stick on.
And also, Simpsons knows how to, whether it works or not, they know how to change a format and stick with it. Look at the 24 episode they did.
Yeah.
They literally based an entire episode around the format of how 24 works. Whether you like it or not is besides the point.
Yeah.
It looks like what it's supposed to look like.
No, and oh man, I just noticed they did it again as well when Cletus and Brandine are having another conversation, and just all of a sudden one of their kids is beautifying a raccoon, and it's just, and that was in quick succession to the other one. I'm just like, oh my god,
wait, I missed that.
You didn't really?
Yeah.
You didn't miss it? I gotta say, any other cartoony moments stand out to you guys?
Look, a bit, I went from not liking to liking. Brandine's like, what am I supposed to do with a man who thinks culture is lighting his own farts? That wasn't great. But then Homer's response of, you can light them? That
and Marge is like genuine, no, don't.
Yeah, that to me, I could take a leave, the explosion that then happened, but Marge's response of, oh my god, I kept this from him for so long.
Exactly. I like, the implication that she's been hiding that. And just he never knew. Again, recut it to not have the follow-up explosion of Homer being like, it wasn't me. I don't need that. But him being excited to find out was great.
Yeah. Oh, that one, even just punching it up again, just removing the actual fire and just having a faded in all the way into one speaker, just to in the distant,
Yeah.
Sure. Like a, huh.
Yeah. Just trailing on from The Simpsons lack of focus again, where they just get into these it's so ADD streamer conscious things where they're talking about a smart school, public school, not even a magnate school, and then Ralph's like, I swallowed a magnet, and then it's again another one of these cartoony moments where I'm like, what are we doing?
It's not a cartoony moment, but I feel like we have to throw to it because I feel like we're all going to have the same reaction. And also, hi Phil, how bad were the songs in this one? Because they went for so long and just told us the plot that had already happened.
Yes.
And
an interesting contrast to my complaint before about putting shit in the background because you're bored of your own story. When Homer and Cletus were listening to that country song, there was nothing happening. They were just sitting back and forth on the rocking chairs. And then in a almost self-congratulatory moment, Homer going, why is this song so catchy? It's like, motherfucker, let us decide if it's catchy.
Which is so interesting because the line that sets it up is one of my notes of something that I really liked, which is just Cletus's line of, no matter how you feel, there's a country song that expresses it perfectly.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny and nice.
Yeah, same.
But then,
No, and I enjoyed the visual joke of the picking up the record. Your wife left you, and my marriage is happy.
Like,
not
no,
this one. Your wife left you, and mine did too. Perfect.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't mind that at all. Well, how about this leads nicely into the heart. How was the emotion of this episode?
Yeah, look, there's almost a bit with Homer because he says to Marge, you could definitely do better, but I couldn't, and every day you give me something to shoot for. They need to rephrase it because he does say every day you give me something awesome to shoot for, and I think that detracts from it because the simplicity of just every day I have to earn you because you are better is a very, very solid sentiment that they just needed to refine that speech a tiny bit.
And a massive positive for me, that is a better version of that season 5 episode Secrets of a Successful Marriage where it's like Homer's
complete and utter dependence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas like at the time that's a funny joke, but like in retrospect and we've moved on as a society, it's like, oh, that's a bit not good.
Yeah, Homer, that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And Marge was right. It is not a good thing. But like this is that kind of same concept, but a better version of it, of Homer being like, yeah, I know that you're a catch. And it ties into something that they established in the episode where Marge in bed with Homer was like, do you realize that people think I could do better? And Homer's like,
oh no,
it's like the fart thing. It's like, oh my God, she put it together.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea that Homer's like, I'll keep trying. I know I don't deserve you, but I'll keep trying.
And even says, I'm gonna fall short some days. I mean, that's great.
And that's something that has been expressed upon and kind of like explored in, I think of the Artie Ziff episode, right? Where he's like, let me take her for one date. And he gives her everything, quote unquote, that she could ever like want. She'll want for nothing. She'll get the money, the house, everything. And Marge is like, but that's not what I want. I want this person.
Yeah.
Because of all those small moments. And that's like, obviously that's the crux of their relationship. It's not about all that stuff. It's about our intimacy and what we have with each other. And yes, Homer does fall short. Like, Homer's a lucky son of a bitch. But like, that's what the push and pull of that relationship is like, what does make it work is the question.
Yeah, and that's why this one sort of leaves me wanting, is because like it sets up these things to sort of be greater explorations into, relationships and like what two people are like when they're by themselves, and like what friends or outsiders might see as like, are you guys good for each other or whatever? Are you good enough for them or what? Like all those explorations. But yeah, it just turns into these jokes about like the redneck history room and fucking honestly just a lot of boring shit.
And I think what's good about having this episode to compare against the last one, for me obviously because I had a much more positive take on that episode, but for me it goes like, it is so fascinating if you're a writer or if you're somebody that works on a TV show, just knowing that if you get certain aspects of your story right, so much can be forgiven. But if you don't hit those things, all the weaknesses come to the surface, and you're not going to be like, we will absolutely nitpick this thing to shit because there's nothing else to look at.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many old episodes of The Simpsons that we've given cubic and being like, this plot element doesn't work, but you know what? I was having such a good time.
Yeah, like, it's the Halo effect. You'll forgive things if you're having a good time, but if you're not, you're going to start noticing all the little foibles.
But yes,
also, foible.
Go for it.
Foible. I just wanted to say it a few more times.
Foible.
Good word. I think it appears in Bulbous Buffon.
I may not be using it correctly, but it's fun.
But ultimately, does it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? These are characters we know and love. Is this a show we know and love?
I guess there's no integrity breaks.
I'd say Skinner's probably the sole one for me.
Skinner is immediately wrong, and I'm glad we all picked up on that because
Lisa's very true to herself, and especially in the amount that she A, doesn't trust herself, and B, does look to the validation of others very often. Like, those are some core Lisa values that get put to the test.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I wish they just presented this differently, because the concept of her dimming herself down, at least visibly, to avoid, scrutiny, that makes sense. That would fit her. You'd get tired of the bullying and, it would be an option she'd explore. But I don't like how they went about it. No,
that's it. They set up and didn't actually build an episode around it of here's the establishing thing, and now Lisa tries to do this, and then has a problem with it, and then resets to zero. It's we don't go on a journey with it. It's just here's the problem, and it's resolved.
It Act 1 and Act 3 is it. There's no Act 2.
Yeah, she's decided to make a change. We never see that change. She decides to change back.
Also, does Bart do anything in this episode?
Nope.
Didn't think so. I know he was at the dinner table and he said something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's your standard, all right, here's Nancy's one-line minimum for the week. And I remember that being such a weird moment because they just, like, come back from act and he's like, and that's when I learnt that disabled ramps are a good skateboard ramp.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, American Disabilities Act. And everyone laughs. And I'm like, what? Weird shit. But yes or no, would you watch this one again?
No.
No, I mean, if you ask me to, sure. But no.
Nah, hell.
So same answer, but different emotion behind it.
Good things we don't retread ground on this podcast, except when we do. BT, what would you like to change?
I mean, we've just touched upon it.
It's an episode you can't talk about without talking about how it's fundamentally wrong and what can be easily fixed.
Yeah, because it really does flub at a certain point and just never recovers. I want to free up some time to, I think either cut the Homer storyline or the Lisa storyline because the other one needs room to explore a bit more. You could actually definitely cut the songs because they take up so much time and are so slow. And then just, finish what you were doing. Like, give us... we need to get into Lisa's story way faster because it takes too long to get there. I like the concept, but we don't ever get to see her actually hiding who she is. We just hear about it.
Especially with Miss Hoover, who has been, like, long established as a woman who has long since lost a love of this profession and is so apathetic and especially heartbreaking in the case of Lisa, who is so precocious, Yeah, and
Lisa's not getting anything from Hoover other than pumpkin stickers. And a little tip for all you out there, you can buy those. They're not expensive.
Man, kids fucking, they froth over them though.
They do. As a teacher, I even used it with my senior students and they loved them.
Look, I'm going to say I brought just a sheet of random fun stickers to work. Every single person, whenever I go, hey, do you want a sticker? They're like, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I do actually.
So, it's surprisingly fun. Get back to stickers. It brings some whimsy to work.
How about you, Sean? What would you like to change?
Let me put on my surgical gloves. So I'm going to eradicate the C-plot completely, take away the Marge and Homer kind of like side tangent. I'm going to flip the A-plot and the B-plot. So I want to make this episode about Lisa and having to hide the intelligence because we didn't really get to the crux of any emotion with the Cletus and what's her name? Brandine. Because there's not really an emotional crux that we can really lean on. That can be a B plot. And then because we don't have the C plot there, focus on the Lisa storyline and then make how Lisa finds her intelligence or the strength and the courage to really assert her intelligence. Let her help Brandine with that, and conversely, let Brandine help Lisa with that, and make their relationship the emotional center.
Yeah,
they could meet at the library, and that'd be like what kicks it off. Because why have Brandine in the book club if no one thinks she reads?
Yes.
That was my thing. Why was she invited? Like,
why are you shocked? She's there. So,
yeah, I agree with, like, even though I think, like, the Homer Marge thing was probably one of the elements that was working best in this, like, I agree. It's just, you haven't given it enough time for it actually to be fully fleshed out, and it is at the sacrifice of Lisa, and, like, you've given way too much to Brandine and Cletus and, like, going into their backstory and how they met and all that stuff, and, like, that did nothing for me. Like, it's just a stupid little flashback of the same jokes you've been running back about these two, and, like, it was one of the things I cringed most about reading the premise of this episode is, like, oh, we're getting a Cletus and Brandine focused episode. Yeah. It's like with Chalmers or whatever, like, those episodes are exciting to come into. It's like, oh yeah, here is a character that potentially has a lot of depth and complexity, and, like, even though he's like a D-E tier character, you can hinge a plot on. These two, like, let's be fair, they're a side joke at best, and I think their treatment of the character is one of the less egregious elements of this. I'm not fully 100% on that, but it is not as bad as I thought it'd be, but it's still largely unnecessary.
Yeah. Or honestly, the other thing you could do is, okay, surgical gloves back on.
Yep.
Take the original
new
B-plot.
New gloves.
Yeah, new gloves. Wash your hands.
Naturally.
Take the Cletus Brandine B-plot, remove it entirely. Take the C-plot, make that the B-plot. So what you do is you focus on Lisa's suppressing of intelligence, then finding her sparkle with the intelligence. Yeah. Have a throwaway line where, like, at the supermarket, Brandine talks about, maybe she shouldn't be with, Cletus anymore. And Marge is like, like, well, of course you shouldn't. You deserve better. She takes offense, is like, wait, no, you deserve better.
Yeah.
And then she's like, wait, what do you mean? Then we don't need to worry about Cletus anymore. It's about Marge realizing, wait, does everyone feel about this?
Yeah.
And then you can focus on that. The emotional crux is Lisa and Homer. Lisa trying to like find the courage to pursue her intelligence and know her worth. And then for Homer as well, it's like going, right, I need to like step up my game because a lot of what I see in Lisa, I see in Marge.
Yeah.
So like,
That's good.
I don't want to dim her sparkle. I don't want to be, I don't want to make her feel about how you feel by everyone at school.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, that is a perfect use of the plot baton. Like, yeah.
He's a cubic zirconia, and I'm making her feel like a dull gold.
Aww.
Yeah. Aw.
Then we'd know they've been listening.
Oh, yeah. That's the setup. Let's see if that comes in.
All right, final note time. Sean, what other bits of this episode do you want to mention before we move on to the rankings?
I'm going to talk about the things that I do like. A lot of them are visual jokes. So number one, being that it is the first legal drink that I ever had as an adult, I love the visual gag of Southern discomfort.
Oh, yeah.
That Brandine was drinking.
Yeah.
I loved the Springfield Elementary sign, found, lost, lost, and found sign.
Yep.
Ooh, you know what? I did love the negotiation between Homer and Marge about what level of drunk he's allowed to come back from Moe's at.
I had that as a up arrow as well. Like, wedding drunk, cash bar.
It's like, oh, fine.
Yeah. No, I love the different explorations of drunk, definitely.
I hated the yodeling joke.
And it was an act break. That was
terrible
so
way to go.
terrible.
Papa, we've seen you cry, but we ain't seen you yodel. It's like, what?
What does that have to do with anything? I did love the bullies joking of, it's like, wait a minute, there's 4 of you. That's not fair. Wait, she's trying to teach us to multiply. I'm like, great.
Yeah, 4 times as many.
I enjoyed that. I still, like, there's been a couple of times where they've had, like, the male bullies rag on Lisa, which is, it always comes off as a bit weird. And, like, especially when it's led by Shauna, like, I think you could have had some girl bullies there and you wouldn't have.
We've had those before.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
But yeah, at least having Shauna gives, another female to bully her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's everything that I haven't already stated.
BT.
There's a little music sting of like when Cletus finds out Brandine has a library card or whatever, where it's the banjo going like bum 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 or something. I can't remember. But it was a nice little way to do that.
Sure.
Look, I also didn't like Farewell to Arms. We'll just leave that at that.
Take that, David Foster. No, who did that one?
Hemingway.
I don't know how to read.
You mean your yups have just been yeses in disguise? I did like that line. Yep. Look, starve a landfill, feed a teacher. Depressing, but accurate. So,
yes.
Fund your schools, America. I know they listen as well and make decisions based on us. A bit I didn't get is the way they deter the bullies from finding the secret hideout is they turn on Wheel of Fortune, and all the bullies are like, Wheel of Fortune's on, let's run home. And like, my guess is it's meant to be the last thing you'd expect to work is what works, but it didn't click for me
I'm not
at all.
Americanized enough to maybe understand the grip that Wheel of Fortune still has on
their
society.
I guess.
That's kind of my point, is that, like, it feels like those sort of game shows are a bit of a product of the past. Like, now that it's not you watching it because it's on, and, like, again, it's one of those Simpsons calling another show stupid, which is... You just don't do that joke right now, guys. Like,
yes,
you're on thin ice and you're throwing stones.
Yep. We see another redo of Homer and Marge's wedding. This is like the 6th by now. I don't know. And finally, in the segment that may never live beyond this episode, I asked AI what it thought, and it said, I couldn't find any information about the Simpsons episode Pretty Whittle Liar. It's possible this episode doesn't exist or is a misremembered title. So our jobs are secure, Elliot. We are the superior machines.
Oh, man, being able to pull facts and research about these episodes was so much easier to do with anything prior to season 20. Like, so few of them, like the Simpsons fandom, don't really rally around the wiki pages to fill them out and give a lot of fun facts and stuff, and like even they're not doing commentaries for any of these things anymore. So I'm not surprised that AI couldn't glean anything from the internet, because
now I'm going to use an example of why AI is bullshit.
It's like, another example that where I'm just like, do these episodes actually even exist? Like,
do we collectively hallucinate?
Look, it was stupid, but I had a wry smile for now I got to go back home to the nanny, and the nanny is a goat, and
gives
it the money, the goat eating the money. That was just like,
That was when I was having a really good time with the episode.
And then I do love the line after that, just the throwaway. Are you free Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great out for that scene. But then quickly followed by a Jordan's Anal Corner. Get the bell.
Hey, Jordan's Anal Corner in session.
So it's very interesting. In the last episode we reviewed that the Homer came up to Reverend Lovejoy and was like, I have a confession. And Lovejoy's like, I'm offended that you think our church has confession. And then in this episode, Lovejoy has a confession booth.
Well, he learned. He's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Homer was right.
Yeah.
I need to have a confession.
But I thought that was like confession is a Catholic thing, not a Protestant Presbyterian thing.
Yeah. Also, I must say that's a line. That's something I forgot. Look, it's a bit of a it's a very subtle, but I love the wait, Helen. No gossiping. And then him going into the confessional. I was like, aha, I get it.
Yeah.
And I love it. I don't know. It's like nice little. And I'm glad that they didn't have to be like, and now for everyone else gossiping. It's like you don't need to lampshade it. It's like, it's fine.
But again, it just went on such a tangent where then like Wiggum is being held hostage by Snake, who's then been like...
All right.
Yeah. You're good at that voice. Brandine goes, for me, the 3 R's of Raccoons, Red Bull, and the rhythm method.
I was worried there.
Yep.
I was worried about where that was going.
That was something I quickly wanted to bring up was we got through a whole Cletus Focused episode with no meth references.
Hey!
Yeah, good job. Feels good. Like, good for them. They've
you can put up like the 0 days without an accent, change that to a 1.
Yeah.
1 episode without a Cletus meth joke. I always find it interesting when they're drawing the Simpsons around the dinner table and just to see what Lisa's eating. And to me, it looks like a single stalk of celery and 2 piles of different mash.
Yes.
Because it's funny, like in Simpsons later seasons, they like clearly put more detail into the food that they're eating. And sometimes it's like, oh, is that a salmon with a béarnaise? That looks delicious. But then, Lisa got celery and slop.
Yeah, it wasn't Ghibli this time.
No. Homer going, you know those long undies with the butt flap? And then Cletus has those. And I'm like, my note just there is just capital letters, fuck you.
Yes.
Yeah, look, that's all my notes. The episode goes out on a whiff again with like, oh, I hired Elton John, but the silhouette is Lenny. And then the Mo Beatles are there with Barney. And then the 4th act thing is Cletus on books, and fuck that. It's time to rank this thing. Look, I'm kicking enough and giving it a participant. Like, I got to admit, reflecting on some of the jokes, there was a few things that worked enough. And like, I'll give the story beat some credit, but like, listen to me, episode, you were dangerously close to a failure here. Like, it's just that you didn't utterly like, honestly, maybe 1 meth joke was the difference.
1 meth joke away from ruin, like all of us.
BT.
Like I'm on the same page again. Just participant. I'm going to mostly forget this one. Nothing was in it that really made me mad. It's a squandered potential because there are some good ideas at play here and they just don't come to fruition. And it starts pretty well as well, but does not maintain.
Yeah, stick the landing, as we say. And Sean.
This is why I think your previous episode should have at least been a bronze, because no way these 2 episodes are the same ranking. But that being said, participant as well. I think for my own personal rankings, I reserve failures for like offensive episodes.
Yeah, that's it.
And like this wasn't offensive. Like, you know,
something that boils the blood a little bit.
Yeah, but this is like, you're bordering on it because you're dealing with like lower class stuff that you really don't like, that you're not great with, but fine. Anyway, like there's enough jokes in there and there's enough intrigue for me with a Lisa-centric episode that I was like, this could have been better. It wasn't abysmal.
Yeah, that's it. And look, I mean, when you've only got 6 boxes to work with, but yeah, it's very much, the last one to me was a high participant. This is a low one.
Yeah. So if I didn't say participant is what I'm going with.
Yes. Yes. Yep. All right. And yes, unanimous participant. On the lower end of season 33, which is, it's been a mixed bag of a season. There's, a few participants in there, but yeah, we've had some of our favorite episodes from there, like Lisa's Belly, which is like a really interesting exploration of like Lisa's body image and Marge as well, and like a lot of it takes place in Dreamscape. It's
wait, as in favorite episode of all time?
No.
Come on.
Of the later era
Simpsons. Got you.
And it probably goes up a metal grade because it did so much better than its neighbors.
Yep.
But I mean, also reviewed this season and also a unanimous participant and Made Maggie, which we reviewed with you, Sean, where
Really?
Maggie gets Fat Tony's her godfather or something.
Oh, that's right.
Gun to my head, I could not tell you much more about that episode.
No, I remember. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't remember. That's the point.
Yeah.
But, I mean, more on the positive note, also from this season that I recommend people check out from season 33 is Pixelated and Afraid, where Marge and Homer get lost out in the woods and are naked for a portion of it, and they have to find their way back to civilization, and it is very well done despite a bad first act.
Yeah.
I remember reading the synopsis for that because I think it was very close to the return of Homer's mum. That episode that boiled my blood. But I remember reading the synopsis and going, that sounds like a classic episode. That sounds like it has potential.
Alex, it's a very different change of pace, but it works.
Yeah, and it's another one where, like, the modern art style that some people can find off-putting about The Simpsons works in their favor here because they can just do so many more things than they could have done. Like, this isn't an episode you could have made in the classic era. Whereas, yeah, this one is, and that's why it's, like, that much more disappointing is because... Anyway. Sean, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You'll come back now, and if people want to hear more of you, where can they do that?
A couple of things at the moment. So I've just recently started my wrestling Instagram account, Sean Thomas Wrestling, to basically if anyone interstate or whatever wants to book me as an announcer or a commentator, feel free. But otherwise, if you're just a watcher that wants to see where I'm at, I'm with Wrestle Rampage here in Adelaide. We have a live stream of our next show, which will be this Saturday at, I want to say 7 or 7:30 start. So on the Wrestle Rampage Instagram, we'll be live so you can hear my commentary live. Otherwise, I'll be working for World Series Wrestling, doing the shows for Melbourne, Sydney, and Adelaide on commentary. So
Are you coming out to Sydney?
No, I'm not.
Oh, remote?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, you'll be hearing my voice a lot for World Series Wrestling, which you can get through Triller TV, formerly known as Fight. Otherwise, you can find me as one out of 4 members of Roll to Cast, ROLE. We're a TTRPG podcast. Or if you're down in Adelaide, come to the Adelaide Fringe, where we're doing Roll to Cast live at the Lost Dice, where we're playing a different TTRPG every Saturday at the Fringe, starting from the 22nd of February and then all the way to the 22nd of March. In order, we're doing Dungeons & Dragons, Blade Runner, Warhammer 40k, Dark Heresy, Star Trek, and Eat the Reich.
Wow, 5 weeks of Roll to Cast live.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, which a little birdie has told me that potentially one or both of you are coming down to.
I'm definitely coming down because I'm also going to be in town for the Slipknot concert, and I'm also taking in some Fringe. Beach, you're more than welcome to join us, but...
I haven't planned that far ahead in life.
Yeah, probably should have mentioned that off-pod earlier, but yeah, I think I'll be there for your Warhammer 40k show, which, yeah, I'm very looking forward to. Me and Beach have seen the live shows in the past, and they are
good fun.
A lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Get yourself some grimdark, Elliot. Yeah.
It'll be a good fun, and it's a chance to have some food, have some drink, and you know, whittle away 3 hours on a Saturday night with some good old fashioned role playing.
Was that at the Lost Dice?
Still at the Lost Dice, yes.
Man, that is such a good venue.
Yeah, amazing venue.
Great food, cool vibe.
Lost Dice is awesome. First level is for, you can buy board games and buy a lot of dice and buy everything. And they've also, basically you just go there, play a bunch of board games, have dinner, eat and drink, and then during the Fringe at the 3rd level, they've got like a little venue there where we do our live show. So yeah, it's good fun.
Awesome. And yeah, looking forward to those World Series Wrestling shows as well. Like, wrestling fans out there, you might know Jinder Mahal and the former Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, and Danhausen are going to be on those shows, I believe. Yeah,
that is correct. Danhausen.
Very nice, very evil. Looking very much forward to that. But BT, what about if people want to hear more of us?
Well, look, just quickly on the DL, if any of our listeners are secretly very smart but have to hide it, I know of another secret place you can go. You can go to patreon.com/sidequeststudios. We can join a secret society of wonderful heroes on our Patreon and get access to over 200 exclusive podcasts. There's a 2 with 2 zeros behind it, but I don't have to tell you that. You're very smart. This covers a whole range of shows that Elliot and I do there. And, of course, there's also Starring Springfield, which began as a exclusive podcast. And we have, like 50 episodes of that? banked on the Patreon, where it's also a free podcast. You can get a little sample of what we're doing over there.
Yeah, so we decided to make Starring Springfield its own free podcast. And yeah, on that, we're reviewing the movies that star the cast of The Simpsons. Yeah, there's about 15 episodes on the free feed now. But yeah, if you want to get early access, you got to go to that Patreon page, patreon.com/SideQuestStudios, where you can also tell us what movies we will be reviewing on that.
Don't worry, everyone. They've already done Godzilla. I'm sure of it.
First one out the gate.
First cab off the rank because, yeah, it features 3 Simpsons stars. Do you have any other Simpsons cast member movies that spring to mind, Sean?
Oh, I'm trying to rack my brain at the moment. I'm sure there's a weird, obscure Hank Azaria one that's out there. God, no, I'd have to give it some thought. How far of a scope do you give it? Do they have to be main voice cast members? Is it just the, 6 or 7?
Yeah, we largely put it to if their name is synonymous with the show.
Gotcha.
So like Troy McClure, that's a good
Bill
indicator.
Hartman.
Yeah, no, his actual name
We've
left my
reviewed
head.
such movies as,
Yeah.
Could you include Kelsey Grammer because of his... Great. Awesome. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, because he is synonymous with the show, so, you know.
Yeah.
In which case, do Expendables 3, damn you.
Oh my God, we already did that for OGT. If someone wanted to be really cruel, sign up to the Patreon and make us review Expendables 3 again.
Oh, man.
But yeah, we also reviewed the Kelsey Grammer classic Down Periscope, and I'm seriously hoping someone suggests Money Plane at some point.
I was about to say, because that's got Adam Copeland in it as well.
Yep.
That's what I was going to say. Yes, Money Plane.
Adam Copeland, a.k.a. WWE wrestler Edge, or AEW wrestler Cope.
You know that bit where they're all like, what if we use the money to pull down Skinner's pants and keep him down for the rest of the school year? And he's just like, I'll do it, mate.
You can do the podcast equivalent of that. Yep, that's patreon.com/SideQuestStudios. And yeah, also Sean has a great Patreon as well. Patreon.com/RollToCast.
That's exactly right. ROLE, Roll to Cast. You get early episodes. And otherwise, we've got a lovely Discord as well that we are frequent. And we have a Patreon exclusive discount where you can, Discord, where you can bully us into what we do next.
Fun.
It's a wonderful approach we've both taken, isn't it? Be our loving audience. Bully us.
Yeah, we like it.
Go on, do it. What are you, chicken?
So, yeah, to go get your exclusive Cat o' Nine Tails, go to patreon.com/SideQuestStudios. But for now, that has been the Simpsons Index for this week. Once again, thank you so much, Sean.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's almost worth the 40-degree heat I'm in.
Well, let's turn on that aircon after I say thank you very much, BT.
SideQuest Studios branded Cat of Nine Tails. That's a merch opportunity, Elliot. Always on brand. I like it.
And I've been your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill. That's all the mustard in the house.
Thank you for listening to the Simpsons Index podcast, which is also an online spreadsheet available at thesimpsonsindex.com. We're also on social media. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and on Threads. Links for all that and more are down in the show notes. And lastly, consider giving us a 5-star review. Why not? We'd do it for you. Now, there's no bonus scenes for this episode. Everything we left in was pure gold, so we'll catch you next time.